I stood by the hospital bed and said to my mother, "You're always causing trouble. All you do is make things difficult for me. Let me tell you, I don't have time to take care of you. If you need something, go find your son." Everyone in the ward turned their heads, looking at me with disdain in their eyes. My mother cried out in grievance, "How can you speak to me like this? I'm your mother." I looked at her expressionlessly and said softly, "20 years ago, in this very place, you said the exact same thing to me, don't you remember?" She froze for a moment, all her anger dissipating instantly, mumbling, "You really hold a grudge." I didn't say anything and turned to leave, leaving the hospital. The weather outside was terrible, hazy and foggy, the air damp and sticky, exactly the same as the day I was admitted. I don't know if you've ever had memories so painful, precisely because they were so agonizing. They remain vivid, as if they happened just yesterday. No matter how much time has passed, I was staying in this same hospital when I was in my second year of middle school. That morning when I woke up, my stomach was inexplicably in terrible pain. At home, I was always the one who made breakfast in the mornings because my mom said they worked hard. I remember asking her back then, why didn't my younger brother have to do it? My mother said matter-of-factly, "Your brother is growing, and besides, studying is so exhausting for him." But my brother and I are twins. I was only born a few minutes earlier than him, not to mention, my grades have always been at the top of the class, while my brother barely scrapes by. I don't see what's so hard for him, but these things happen too often, and I knew the treatment between me and my brother was different. I always obediently got up early to make breakfast before heading to school, but not today. My stomach hurt so badly it felt like a knife was twisting inside me. I couldn't hold on any longer and drifted into a dazed sleep. I don't know how much time passed, but a sharp kick to my body jolted me awake in pain. I opened my eyes to see my mother standing by my bed, hands on her hips, glaring at me not as her daughter but as if I were her enemy. Before I could speak, she pointed at my nose and scolded, "Why aren't you up making breakfast? Are you deliberately trying to make your brother late for school?" I was in so much pain that cold sweat covered my body. And I weakly said, "Mom, my stomach hurts really bad. Please take me to the hospital." My mother sneered, yanked the blanket off me, and mocked, "You'll say anything just to be lazy. Would you be happy if your brother starved to death? What's the use of raising such an ungrateful wretch like you?" The blanket was suddenly yanked off, and the cold winter air hit my soaked clothes clinging to my body, making me shiver uncontrollably. I bit my lip hard, not saying a word. Forced myself to stand up and cooked a pot of porridge, without eating a single bite myself. I went to school. That day, the pain was so intense I could barely stand, and I couldn't hear a thing during class, but I didn't shed a single tear, nor did I utter a word of pain, because I knew, even if I cried, no one would see. When school ended, I stood up to pack my things, but everything went black and I lost consciousness. When I woke up again, I was already in a hospital bed. The doctor next to me said it was acute appendicitis and scolded my mom for bringing the child in so late, warning that any delay could have led to intestinal perforation. My mom stood to the side, pursing her lips and rolling her eyes impatiently. "Why do you always cause trouble? You're nothing but a burden. Let me tell you, I don't have time to deal with you." She counted the money in her bag, her face clouded with anger. "Damn it, only 3,000 again. What's the use of raising you? Such bad luck." With that, she stomped out in her high heels, click-clacking away. Even the doctor was stunned, watching my mother's retreating figure and saying, "Hey, what kind of mother is this?" I remained silent on the side, the pain and exhaustion leaving me completely drained, with no strength left at all. The doctor comforted me, saying, "Your mother was just speaking in anger. What mother wouldn't care for her child?" I managed to force a weak smile at him. I know my mom wasn't just saying it in anger. Sure enough, after that, my mom only came once to pay the bill and never visited again. As for my dad and my brother, it goes without saying, it was as if I didn't exist in the family. I had just undergone surgery, yet I couldn't even get a single meal to eat. It was the neighbor aunt who saw how pitiful I was and brought me an extra meal while taking care of her son, which helped me get through it. During that time, inserting a catheter and going to the bathroom were all done with the help of nurses. Later, when I felt a bit better, I would help the neighbor aunt fetch hot water and take care of her son. Every time, the aunt wouldn't let me do any work, holding my hand and sighing, "What a lovely girl. How could a mother be so cruel?" Hearing this, I felt a sharp pang of pain inside. Even a stranger knew to feel sorry for me. Yet, I also felt somewhat numb, it had happened too many times. I wasn't that sad anymore. My mom didn't let me stay in the hospital for too long. The doctor said I needed to be hospitalized for at least a week, but I was discharged after just 4 days, because my mom said the hospital fees were too expensive. On the first day I returned home, my dad laughed. I thought he was going to say something caring, but the words he spoke are something I'll never forget for the rest of my life. He said, "You're finally back. Your mom's cooking is terrible. Let's have some wontons for breakfast tomorrow." Looking back, I find it quite absurd. Even if it were just a housekeeper, the employer would at least offer a token gesture of concern on their first day back from being sick. In their eyes, my only value seems to be doing household chores at home. My mother sat aside, holding a notebook to calculate expenses for me, surgery and hospitalization fees, 3,000, plus what you've spent before, it totals 63,000. This is all what you'll have to pay back to us in the future. Yes, as absurd as it sounds, my family keeps a ledger dedicated solely to me. Every penny I've spent since childhood, my mother would record in this ledger. At first, I didn't know there was such an account book at home. It was during one family outing to buy new clothes for the Lunar New Year. My mother bought my younger brother a down jacket for $800. But when it came to me, she said there was no money left and didn't buy me anything. Back then, I was still a bit naive and pointed at her wallet asking, "There's still money in there, Mom?" My mother didn't say anything, just glanced at me. Her eyes were filled with a mix of disdain and contempt as she said, "Are you sure you want to buy it?" I was still in elementary school back then. And of course, a little girl loved wearing new clothes, so, even though my mother's look made me a little scared, I still mustered the courage to nod. My mother didn't say much more and took me to buy a $138 jacket. Why do I remember the price of this piece of clothing so clearly? Because when we got back that day, my mother took out that account book right in front of me, which was densely filled with records of all my expenses over the years. And the first entry was the hospitalization fee she paid when she gave birth to me. She took out a pen and carefully wrote down a number in her notebook, 138. "All this is the money you've spent," she said, pointing at the ledger. "This is for your clothes." With that, my mother looked up and fixed her gaze on 9-year-old me, saying word by word, "Daughters are outsiders. You'll have to pay me back all this money in the future." I was too young at the time and didn't quite understand what it meant. So I asked curiously, "Does my brother have one too?" My mother's expression suddenly changed, and she glared at me with a cold sneer. "Everything in this house belongs to your brother. Remember, you're spending your brother's money, you should be grateful to him." I don't understand why I should be grateful to my younger brother, but my mom's expression was so terrifying that I could only nod fearfully. Okay, actually, my family's financial situation isn't considered very wealthy, but it definitely qualifies as middle class. When I was in elementary school, apart from 2 properties in the provincial capital, my family also owned 2 storefronts, but my parents said those were all for my younger brother and told me not to covet them. Over time, I actually got used to this kind of life. Eventually, I even began to feel like an outsider in my own home. Every time I asked my mom for something, I would mentally keep track of it before she could even say anything. How much was this? How much in total? And how much I would have to pay back in the future? To be honest, my parents didn't treat me too badly. Although I didn't eat or drink as well as my younger brother at home, my basic needs were still met. They just treated me like a complete outsider and kept very clear accounts with me. It's like taking out a bank loan. My upbringing was essentially a debt I borrowed from them. This debt requires me to repay them with interest when I grow up. I always thought everyone was like this until one time I mentioned it to my friend. My friend is an only child, and she was shocked to tell me, "Are your parents out of their minds?" Then she told me that a parent's love is supposed to be selfless. She always got whatever she wanted from her parents since childhood, and they never mentioned anything about repayment. She also said that most parents are like this. How can love be measured by money? It sounds a bit ridiculous, but this theory, which doesn't even qualify as common sense, was as shocking to me at the time as being told the earth is flat. After that, I started paying attention to the people around me, and in the end, I realized my friend was right. I'm the exception. I couldn't help but go back and ask my mom why she treated me and my brother so differently. My mom looked surprised, as if I were asking why the earth is round. She told me matter-of-factly, "Because Barrett is the root of the Tang family. We'll have to rely on him for our retirement." I was utterly baffled. "I can also take care of you in your old age." Asterisk you asterisk. My mother lifted her eyelids to glance at me, smirking as she said, daughters are raised for other families. You belong to someone else's family. How could we dare count on you? My parents truly carried this standard to its extreme. The year my younger brother took the college entrance exam, I was also taking it, at that time. The atmosphere at home was extremely tense for his sake. My mom made me cook various dishes every day to nourish his brain. Even though we were both exam candidates, my brother was treated like an emperor at home. My mom didn't dare to speak loudly to him, afraid of disturbing his rest. During my senior year of high school, I had to wake up at 4:30 every morning to cook for my younger brother before rushing to school for early study sessions. Yet, despite all this, my brother still didn't manage to get into a 4-year university in the end. He wasn't worried at all, but it stressed my parents out immensely. After all, he was the heir of the Tang family, destined to bring honor to our ancestors. In the end, my parents came up with a plan. They spent a hefty sum to send him abroad for studies, then paraded him around the neighborhood, boasting about how their son was going to achieve great things and was soon heading off to the United States. My scores were high enough to get into a top-tier university in the capital, yet no one ever congratulated me. In their eyes, a girl is raised for someone else's family. No matter how outstanding she is, it's useless. Sometimes, my mother would even look at me with disdain and say, "Why did you score so high? If only your brother had those scores. Imagine how successful he could be." The only memory that summer left me was how unbearably hot it was. The cicadas in August always chirped annoyingly. My father said I should become independent and wouldn't pay my tuition anymore. He even had a special talk with me about it. From childhood to adulthood, my interactions with my father could be counted on one hand. Compared to my mother's blatant disdain, my father always treated me with indifference. Honestly, it's even more painful than outright dislike. I probably knew what he meant by talking to me, but I still held on to a sliver of hope. Perhaps it was a father's final words of advice to his daughter about to embark on a long journey. Yet, my father simply took out that account book and told me, "Don't rush to repay this money. There are no parents in the world who don't love their children. You can take your time." I didn't say anything, forcing a smile after a long pause and nodding at him. "All right, I got it." After returning, I took out the application form. I had been unsure where to go before and wanted to ask my parents again before filling it out. Now, there's no need. I chose a place far away from home. I won't be coming back to this place again. My father wasn't joking. He really didn't give me the $20,000 for my first year's tuition. $20,000. It's really not much. My younger brother spends more than this amount on just one trip. But for a girl who just became an adult, it was truly an impossible sum to come up with. In the end, it was my grandfather who couldn't bear to see me struggle and gave me the money. I then worked a summer job for 2 months to earn a few $1,000s for living expenses. My dad was a bit unhappy, saying this was to train my independence. Pretty ridiculous. 2 kids in the family, yet only I needed to be independent. The day I left home, my mom handed me $2,000. Should I go to school or have some money with me? I was taken aback for a moment. $2,000 is just a pair of shoes for my brother, but for me, this is a treatment I've never had before. Yet I still smiled and shook my head, saying softly to her, "Give me that account book. I want to take a look." She froze for a moment, her expression turning slightly uneasy. "You're being too distant with the family. Where did you get the money just after starting college? It's fine if you pay it back later." My dad was still smiling on the side, praising me. "The child has grown up and become sensible, understanding how hard it is for parents to earn money. Nancy, don't worry about it. You can pay me back after you start working. I don't want any interest from you." I insisted. "I want to pay it back as soon as possible. To pay it back as soon as possible and cut all ties with them." My mother hesitated for a moment but still went into the room and brought out that account book. Nearly 20 years later, the notebook had yellowed with age, its edges frayed from constant flipping. I glanced through it. The last entry was for $2,000, the same $2,000 just given to me. I felt a mix of sorrow and bitter amusement. The cherished maternal love I imagined turned out to be just another transaction. Over the years, I haven't spent much money. Most of my clothes were hand-me-downs from my cousin, and after high school, I stopped asking for new clothes altogether. The main expenses were tuition, living costs, and my hospital bills, totaling $97,800. I told myself in my heart that I would pay them back $200,000, principal plus interest. then I would act as if I had no parents and no home. Just like that, I left this home with a few old clothes and a ledger. I thought I could cleanly sever family ties, but I underestimated myself. During the new year, everyone in the dormitory went home, leaving only me behind, sitting alone in the dorm. I suddenly felt a strong urge to go home, even if they didn't need me, even if my only purpose at home was to do chores. Those who haven't experienced that kind of loneliness truly don't know how terrifying it can be. After hesitating for a moment, I called my mom. The phone rang for a long time before it was answered. I pursed my lips and whispered, "Mom." It was very noisy on her end, and it took her a while to respond. What's wrong?" I said. "Mom, I want to come home." There was silence on her end for a long time. After a while, the noise finally quieted down a bit. Her voice sounded somewhat awkward. "Oh, your brother is back. Our family came to Hainan for the new year. Why don't you come too?" she said. "Our family. Then what am I, Mom? Hurry up." My brother's faint voice came through the phone, and my mom immediately said anxiously, "Otherwise, go to your grandma's place. It's hard to add people to our group here." I'm hanging up now, in the pitch darkness. I sat motionless, clutching the beeping phone. The dormitory is truly freezing, a damp and icy cellar without heating in the south. Yet, I don't feel the slightest bit of hardship. When one's heart is saddened to a certain extent, the body no longer feels the pain. I put down the phone, took out that account book, and read it over and over again. On New Year's Eve in 2018, I spent the entire night staring at this account book. Perhaps when God closes one door, He must open a window for you. Although I don't have much luck with parents, I'm quite good at making money. During my sophomore year, I pooled some money with friends to rent a storefront and opened a script murder mystery shop near the school. I contributed less money, but I'm quite good at writing scripts. I worked day and night to write 10 scripts exclusively for the shop to make up for my share. At that time, script-based murder mystery games were just emerging, and the market was still wide open. Although our shop was small, it was doing quite well. Within a few months, I earned $20,000, covering my tuition and living expenses for the next year. Just then, I received a call from home. After almost a year of no contact, I had deleted that number long ago, and after not seeing it for so long, it had turned into a string of unfamiliar digits. I answered, hello, is this Nancy? Oh, it's your dad." I froze for a moment before realizing, my father's voice had become completely unfamiliar to me after not hearing it for so long. These past 2 years, my parents have truly taken the idea that a daughter is an outsider to heart. I haven't been home once in these 2 years, and they've genuinely never asked about me either. My classmates always thought I was an orphan or a child abandoned after a divorce, and they all pitied me. To my family, I've really become a stranger. This call, I had a gut feeling it wasn't anything good. If it were good news, they'd never think of me. Sure enough, after some small talk, my dad said, "Nancy, Dad's been having some business troubles lately, and the family's a bit short on cash. See if you have any spare money on hand. Lend it to Dad for a bit." It finally dawned on me. It must have been because I had posted about the script murder game shop on my social media that they came to me. I really wanted to pay them back right away. But I only had $20,000 on hand, and I was about to pay next year's tuition soon. After hesitating for a while, I asked, "How long do you need it?" "I still have a bit of tuition left." My dad immediately smiled. "Just give me whatever you have now. Consider it a loan to your dad. I'll pay you back as soon as I get things sorted. It won't take long." I thought about it and ended up transferring all $20,000 to him, no matter what. I don't think my dad would be after the little money I have. My dad took the money and happily hung up the phone, but I was a bit puzzled. The family shop was doing just fine, and I hadn't heard of any problems. Perhaps they expanded the store. I didn't think much of it, just hoping to have the tuition ready in time. But unexpectedly, after my dad borrowed the money, there was no further word from him. It dragged on until the tuition deadline was approaching, and he still hadn't reached out. I couldn't hold back anymore and called my mom. My mother had a very good attitude and kept apologizing to me, but when it came to money, she didn't have a single cent to give. "Your father and I don't have any money either. The family is completely broke now. We even sold the shop front. You're capable. You'll just have to figure something out on your own." Because I had some money on hand, I never applied for a student loan, and now it's completely too late. With the tuition deadline approaching in just a few days, I was so anxious that tears kept falling. I said, "Mom, I'm begging you, just lend me 20,000 for now. The money from my shop will come in soon, and I'll pay you back immediately." My mom simply insisted she had no money, and finally, out of sheer annoyance, she snapped. "Your dad and I don't owe you anything. Consider that money as you paying us back in advance." After hanging up the phone, I was frantic and had no choice but to borrow money everywhere. Unfortunately, the script murder shop had just invested in many new scripts at that time, and all the funds were tied up, leaving everyone short on cash. In the end, I had no choice but to sell my favorite script at a low price. It was the script I had poured the most effort into. And I had originally planned to sell it as an exclusive. Finally, for the tuition fees, I had no choice but to sell it to the person who could pay the fastest, getting $15,000. Later, that notebook was resold as an exclusive, and I heard it went for $800,000. At that moment, though I was anxious, I didn't feel much resentment in my heart. After all, there was a real emergency at home, and if it couldn't be repaid, there was nothing to be done. But just a few days later, I saw my younger brother's post on his social media. It was a 9-grid photo set, featuring a beautiful little house on a grassy lawn, in the USA. My brother sounded thrilled, with lots of emojis in the caption, "The best 20th birthday gift. Thank you, my dearest mom and dad." Only then did I realize what my father had borrowed the money for. The so-called cash flow problem was actually about the house they bought from my younger brother. I gave my brother a call. This was our first phone call after college. My brother and I don't actually have a hostile relationship. It's more like mutual indifference. There's not much affection between us. We're like strangers living under the same roof. My brother was spoiled from childhood and is quite naive. I didn't even have to try hard to get him to spill everything. It turns out my parents wanted to buy a nice house for my younger brother in the USA, and this house is a bit expensive. My parents couldn't bear to see my brother suffer abroad, so all these years they've been spoiling him with spending money, even buying him a car. 2 years of his tuition and living expenses alone could have been enough for my parents to buy a house. To afford this house in the USA, the family sold 2 shops, and it still wasn't quite enough, which is why they're trying to borrow money everywhere now. My brother even said, "Dad said you'll be an alien from now on. And since you didn't sign an IOU for that money, what if you don't pay it back? It would have been better to take it out earlier." I nodded. "I see, thank you, happy birthday to you." My brother gave a perfunctory thanks and then hung up the phone. No one remembers that today is also my birthday, but it doesn't matter anymore. My eyes feel terribly sore, as if a bug flew into them, yet they're completely dry, without a trace of moisture. It's worse than crying when you can't even cry. I stopped crying long ago. Crying can be a release, or it can be a plea, but I just feel empty inside, with nothing to release and nothing to plead for. I've only come to understand one truth. From now on, I truly have only myself left. I started earning money like crazy. I wrote scripts day and night, completing a 60,000-word full-length script in just 3 days. Sometimes, I could barely eat or drink for almost an entire day just to finish a screenplay. Several times, my friends couldn't bear to watch anymore, saying I would ruin my health if I kept this up, but I didn't care at all. I just wanted to pay back the money as quickly as possible. Heaven took pity on me. I had at least a bit of talent. Plus, the scripted murder mystery game industry was just taking off back then, and there weren't many people in the field. It didn't take long for me to make a name for myself. The first real bucket of money I earned was from selling my first exclusive script. At that time, scripts were in short supply everywhere, and I sold this one for $600,000. Strangely enough, I didn't cry when I couldn't afford school, nor when my father swindled my money away, but when that $600,000 hit my account, I broke down sobbing uncontrollably. My roommate was completely startled by me. At that moment, there was only one thought in my mind. It brought me a liberating sense of relief, yet it also left a hollow, gaping hole in my heart. I thought, I can finally pay them back. I'm no longer in their debt. I can finally cut ties with them openly and completely. I transferred $180,000 to my mom that same day and sent her a photo of the account book. I said, "Over all these years, you've spent a total of $97,800 on me. Now, including the previous $20,000, I'm giving you back a total of $200,000. Let's call it even." My mom was delighted. "Nancy, you're so capable. The family is short on money these days. Do you have any more? Can you lend some more to your parents?" I couldn't take it anymore and said, Did you empty your pockets to buy Barrett a house? My mother didn't expect that I already knew. After a brief pause, she quickly retorted with confidence, if not for him, then who else should I buy it for? He's the family's heir. I replied indifferently, you can buy it for whoever you want, but I don't have money, if you insist on borrowing. Fine, just give me an IOU with interest rates matching bank loans. My mother was stunned for a moment before angrily exclaiming, what kind of attitude is this? How dare you talk about borrowing from your own parents, who raised you all these years? How can you be so ungrateful? I let out a cold laugh. I never asked to be born. If I had a choice, do you think I would have chosen this family? I've already paid back every penny you spent on me, with interest. And I haven't even counted all the housework I've done over the years. Hiring a maid would cost money, wouldn't it? Don't get it wrong. I don't owe you anything. From now on, we have nothing to do with each other. If you need anything, just ask your son. Years of pent-up grievances poured out, and I could barely hold back my emotions. In the end, with a trembling voice, I abruptly hung up the phone. My mother called back, but I immediately blocked all contact from everyone in the family. The world fell silent. My tears kept streaming down uncontrollably, blurring my vision until I could see nothing clearly. My roommate beside me grew concerned and asked softly, Nancy, what's wrong? Choking back sobs, I forced a smile and said, it's nothing, I'm just so happy. Tears of joy, I'll treat you all to dinner tonight. Life seemed unchanged. I was earning more and more money, so I simply opened my own shop in the university district, specializing in my exclusive notebooks. Business was thriving. No one from my family came looking for me anymore, as if we had silently agreed to sever our ties, but I never expected that when I finally received another call from my grandmother, it would be my mother's sobbing and wailing on the other end. Nancy, go talk some sense into your brother. Barrett wants to stay in the USA and isn't coming back. I didn't get it at first. I thought buying him a house was precisely so he could stay in America. It was only through my mom's tearful, fragmented account that I finally understood what was really going on. Turns out, my parents couldn't bear the thought of my brother enduring such harsh conditions alone in a foreign country, so they figured they'd just buy him a house to live in. When my brother comes back, we can sell the house. If he doesn't return, they can retire and move to the USA to live with him. Who would have thought my brother would quietly marry a Chinese-American girl there and apply for a green card? That wouldn't be a big deal. They could just move there, but the girl grew up with liberal values. How would she ever conform to their expectations of a dutiful wife serving her husband and in-laws? She made it clear that if my parents went over, she would immediately file for divorce, and my brother's green card would be ruined. With my brother's bottom-of-the-class grades, going abroad would just mean attending some diploma mill, and he'd still stick to hanging out with the Chinese crowd. After 3 or 4 years abroad, his English barely improved, but he picked up Northeastern and Sichuan dialects pretty well. What kind of decent job could he possibly land? At best, he could do some basic painting work, but he wouldn't even be able to handle that hardship. This divorce would shatter my brother's American dream into pieces, completely under that girl's thumb. He outright threatened my parents. If they dared to go, he'd sell the house and move, making sure they could never find him again. Just like that, the family's roots were transplanted abroad with no intention of ever returning. All their so-called retirement plans came to nothing. The family's properties and shops were gone, leaving only the old house they lived in. My mother cried in despair. Nancy, go talk some sense into your brother. We've emptied our savings for you kids. What will we do if he doesn't come back? I couldn't quite describe the feeling in my heart, partly satisfying, partly ridiculous. They treat him like their lifeline, but unfortunately, he doesn't seem to think the same way. I said coldly, you only spent $97,800 on me in total, and I've already repaid you double. Have you forgotten? My mother choked for a moment before changing the subject. Nancy, go talk to your brother. How can a wife be closer than parents? We've supported him for so long. He can't just abandon us. I let out a laugh. That's your family's business. It has nothing to do with me. With that, I hung up the phone. When I went out, my boyfriend noticed I didn't look too happy and asked with concern, what's wrong? I shook my head. Nothing. It's quite a coincidence. Actually, my current boyfriend Jack is the chubby kid who was in the bed next to mine in the hospital ward back in my second year of junior high. 10 years have passed, and he's grown so much I barely recognize him now. It was only during an accidental conversation that we finally recognized each other. These past few days his parents came to visit, and he insisted on taking me to meet them. To be honest, I'm really nervous. Since I was little, I've been taught that because I'm a girl, no one likes me or needs me. I was just an unwelcome, non-refundable freebie that came along with my brother's birth. So when Jack first brought this up to me, I was very resistant. I was afraid his parents wouldn't like me either. After all, who would like someone that even their own parents don't like? But Jack was surprised by my words. He hugged me and disagreed. How could you think that? You're kind, beautiful, have great grades, and even know how to make money. Who wouldn't like you? His expression was sincere, as if he truly believed it. I stammered, no need for formalities. Jack suddenly grew anxious. He grabbed my hand and looked at me earnestly. Who's being formal with you? Do you have any idea how many competitors I had to defeat to get this position? Nancy, you're great, absolutely great. Don't talk about yourself like that. I don't know what came over me, but my eyes suddenly stung, and I blurted out incoherently, but I'm a girl, are you running a fever? Jack touched my forehead in confusion and said, if you were a guy, I wouldn't be with you in the first place. My mom is also a woman. How could she possibly dislike you just because you're a girl? His tone was so ordinary, as if he were stating some perfectly normal common sense. In fact, it really was common sense. Yet when I heard those words, my emotions completely collapsed. My tears flowed uncontrollably like a floodgate had opened, thoroughly frightening Jack. He fumbled to wipe away my tears, panicking and saying, what's wrong, Nancy? Don't cry. If you don't want to meet my parents, we won't go. I won't force you. I couldn't hold back my wailing. The years of suppressed sadness and grievances seemed to burst open completely with that one sentence, uncontrollably gushing out. I cried so hard I could barely speak. Yes, I'm a girl, but my mom is also a woman, and so is my grandma. Why do they dislike me just because I'm a girl? Is this my fault or theirs? I couldn't choose my parents, but if I could, I'd pay any price to prevent my own birth. This was always a cursed bond that neither side wanted. That day, I cried so hard in Jack's car that I started hiccuping, and by the time I went to meet his parents, my eyes were swollen. His mother still remembered me and warmly welcomed me into their home. So you're Nancy. Haven't seen you in so many years. You've grown into such a fine young lady now. What a twist of fate that you two ended up together after all this time. His father was also all smiles, coming out of the kitchen wearing an apron to greet me. I was a bit surprised because in my family, my dad never lifts a finger to do any housework. After setting down the gifts, I sat on the sofa and suddenly stood up when I saw his father bustling about in the kitchen. This is a kind of muscle memory formed over years. Whenever I see others working, I feel anxious inside, because at home, whenever my parents worked in front of me, they would start slamming things and cursing at me. They scolded me for being inconsiderate, lacking awareness, saying I wouldn't find a good job when I grew up, and that my future partner would beat me. No one ever said such things to my younger brother. He could sit there with a clear conscience, turning a blind eye. So when I saw Jack's dad working, my body reacted before my brain could even process it. Jack's mom froze for a moment, then reached out to stop me with a laugh. Little girls shouldn't be doing chores. It'll roughen your hands. Come have some fruit instead. Pushed back onto the sofa, I finally realized how over the top my reaction had been. I've already earned enough money and cut ties with my family, yet the marks carved into me over more than a decade are too deep, having completely molded me into an unchangeable shape. I can choose not to return home, but I can't break free from their influence on me. It's like invisible chains, tightly binding me, perhaps for the rest of my life without release. Jack's parents treated me extremely well. They must have known about my family situation long ago, yet didn't mention a word of it, spending the entire meal joking and laughing with me. I had never experienced such a relaxed and cheerful family atmosphere before. Their eyes were on me, their attention was on me, and the conversation revolved entirely around me. This made me feel somewhat uncomfortable, but it didn't feel bad. When leaving, Jack's parents stuffed 2 very large red envelopes into my hands. A quick feel suggested each contained at least $10,000. I tried to refuse, but his mother insisted. Take it, it's not much, just a token of our affection. In my life before this, most of my experiences involved treading carefully and racking my brains to figure out how to ask for money without getting scolded. I had hardly any experience with elders insisting on giving me money. I looked at Jack somewhat flustered, hoping he could help me out of this situation. Jack smiled and reached out to take the red envelope from his parents' hands. Just give it to me, I'll keep it for her. Jack's mother gave him a playful slap and scolded with a laugh. "This is for Nancy. If you dare pocket it, see how I'll beat you." After saying goodbye to Jack's parents, I sat in the car, slightly lost in thought. The atmosphere at Jack's house and mine is completely different. I noticed long ago that Jack and I have different eating habits. I eat quickly, without saying a word, and leave the table as soon as I finish. Jack, on the other hand, loves to chat with me while eating, and a meal can last half an hour. Sometimes I wonder, how can a grown man be so slow at eating? Looking back now, it was because whenever I ate at home, my parents would seize every moment to scold me. They would pour out all the frustrations and anger they had accumulated from work and life onto me during that meal. From childhood, family meals were always a painful experience for me. That's why I had to eat faster and faster, just to leave the table as soon as possible and escape their venting. For Jack, having the whole family gather for a meal must bring 3 times the joy. While I envy him, I also feel an indescribable sense of resentment in my heart. If only I had a family like that, but unfortunately, I can't choose. Jack's parents really like me and are eager to arrange for him to meet my parents so we can quickly settle the marriage. They do know about my family situation, but they're afraid it might be disrespectful to bring it up directly with me. I calmly discussed it with Jack, telling him all about my family situation and my past experiences. That's how it is, so I've already cut ties with them. They definitely won't treat you well either, so I don't think there's any need for us to go back. Jack listened and hugged me sympathetically. "You've suffered so much." He didn't insist that I must take him home, only saying that as long as I was happy, it was enough. In the end, I didn't tell my family. When I was in college, I had already transferred my household registration out. My parents didn't know, and even if they found out, they probably wouldn't care. At first, I was worried that if my younger brother stayed in the USA and didn't return, my parents would rely on me for their retirement, but to my surprise, within just 3 months, my brother actually came back. My cousin called me late at night to vent. Barrett got scammed abroad. That girlfriend of his tricked him into withdrawing all his money by promising to help him get a green card through marriage. She said they'd start a business together. Something about slot machines that was supposed to be very profitable. He ended up selling the house and car to give the money to that woman, and a few months later when he went to ask about it, she actually said all the money was lost. Not a single penny left. I was typing while on speakerphone, half listening, and then what? And then he was broke. The green card didn't come through either, and he didn't even have money for food. He had to shamefully come back, begging his aunt for money. My cousin angrily scolded, "What a waste. Raising a son like that is worse than raising a piece of roast pork." After hanging up the phone, I lost the mood to keep writing and just stared blankly at the screen. I never expected Barrett to do something like this. When he bought that house, my dad sold all the family's shops and properties, leaving only a shabby old place for himself to live in. That house was bought in the best location, almost draining all the family's savings. I didn't expect everything to be gone in just a year or two. I felt a bit pleased in my heart, but then thought it wasn't right. Barrett is back, and my parents won't just ignore him. I wonder if they'll start targeting me again. Speak of the devil. No sooner had the thought crossed my mind than my grandfather called. As soon as I answered the phone, it was exactly as I expected. It was my mother. Usually, when my mom calls me, her tone is always dripping with impatience, as if she has millions of dollars in business to attend to every minute, and talking to me is just wasting her time to make money. But this time, her tone was surprisingly pleasant. "Nancy, I heard you have a boyfriend. Why didn't you tell us at home? Let me help you check him out." I listened to her hypocritical voice and sneered inwardly, showing such unwarranted kindness. This must be about turning me into a brother supporter. "Bring your partner home for dinner this weekend, Nancy. You're still young and don't understand. People will look down on you if they see you're not close to your family. Your parents' home is your stronghold. If you ever face mistreatment in your in-laws' house, it'll be your brother who stands up for you, backing me up, more like trying to get money out of my pocket." I felt disgusted inside, but I didn't want them to keep testing my limits. I figured I might as well take this chance to make things clear and crush their hopes once and for all. So I agreed. That weekend, I brought Jack home with me. I hadn't planned to bring him, but since we're getting married eventually, he'd have to find out about all this sooner or later. I didn't want to hide it from him, so I simply brought him over to see for himself and give him the choice. As soon as we entered, my mom had already prepared the meal. I glanced at the table, and my expression darkened. There were 3 dishes and a soup, 2 of the dishes were cold vegetarian sides, and the other was stir-fried celery with meat slices, which looked like leftovers. Jack also noticed, and I could see his expression darken slightly, though he maintained a polite smile. I felt furious inside. This was practically spelling out disrespect right to our faces. My dad called Jack over to sit on the sofa with my mom and Barrett, interrogating him as if it were some kind of tribunal, even probing into how much his family earned in a year. Jack answered each question one by one. When my mom found out that Jack's family owned 3 houses, her face lit up with joy, and she nudged my dad. My dad cleared his throat and glanced at Jack, saying, "You've seen my daughter. Top grades, earns well, and beautiful too. You're getting a great deal." Jack nodded and said, "Nancy is indeed wonderful." My dad lit a cigarette and looked at Jack, asking, "So how much bride price are you planning to give?" Jack glanced at me. I gave him a look, signaling him to follow what we discussed yesterday. He understood and said earnestly to my dad, "Uncle, Nancy and I have talked it over. We don't want a bride price or dowry, so as not to burden our parents." "What?" My mother sprang to her feet, her eyebrows raised as she shouted loudly, "No bride price, impossible, let me tell you. The bride price must be 300,000, Barrett coughed on the side. My mother quickly added, "And you must buy your brother an apartment. If not, transfer yours to him, or don't even think about getting married." I glanced at my dad, who remained silent, lowering his head to smoke, tacitly agreeing with my mom's words. Everything was exactly as I had guessed, except I thought they only wanted 1 apartment. I never imagined they'd be even greedier than I expected, demanding an additional $300,000. After a moment of silence, I said softly, "Mom, what if Jack refuses?" My mom shot me a glare and snapped sharply, "If he won't give it, then you can't get married. Break it off, and I'll find you someone better." I nodded, understood. They don't care about my life or my marriage at all. They just want to use my marriage to make another profit from Barrett. Jack looked angry and was about to speak, but I stopped him and stood up to face my mother. My mother glared up at me angrily. Only then did I realize that, at some point, I had grown half a head taller than her. Looking into my mother's eyes, I said calmly, "I'm not here to ask for your permission. I've already repaid every penny you spent on me, with interest. We're done." My mother choked for a moment, then raised her voice even higher. "You think it's settled just because you say so. If I hadn't given birth to you, would you even be standing here talking to me? Ungrateful wretch. Not a shred of gratitude in you. You'll never amount to anything in this life." From childhood to adulthood, I've heard this, parents' benevolence, rhetoric countless times. I should be grateful my mother gave birth to me. I should be grateful my father raised me. I should be grateful my younger brother shared his money with me. The moment I voice any disagreement, they berate me as worthless, as if I was born solely to be grateful. I stared straight at my mother and said, "Do you really think I wanted you to give birth to me? Did you actually look forward to my birth? Weren't you just forced to have me because you had no choice?" "I didn't have a choice either when you gave birth to me. If I could, I'd rather not have been born at all." My mother was about to speak again, but I had already pulled Jack up and said to Barrett, who was eavesdropping, "If you're a real man, stop hiding behind your mom. Didn't you look down on women? Why keep buying the little money in their pockets?" I smiled and said to my parents, "This is your precious son, the root of your Tang family. Honestly, I don't think such inferior genes are worth passing on." My father's face flushed red as he stood up, raising his hand to hit me. "What the hell are you saying?" he shouted. Jack stepped in front of me and grabbed my father's hand, staring at my father's face, now bulging with veins. I spoke slowly and deliberately. I said, "I look down on you. You, a complete fool, have raised your son to be a good-for-nothing." I then turned to look at my mother. "You, a woman yourself, look down on your own daughter and willingly degrade yourself. And you," I said to Barrett, "spend all day thinking about squeezing money from your parents and sister, yet you're nothing but a worthless piece of trash." I stepped out from behind Jack and stood in the living room, finally speaking the words I had held back for over 20 years. "I'm ashamed to be associated with you, just as you look down on me. From now on, we have no relationship. Even if I die, I won't come to you, and don't you dare come looking for me either." My mother was so furious she reached out to grab me. "How heartless can you be to say such things? I'll sue you, you hear me? I'll go to your school and ask them what kind of student they've raised." I gripped her hand tightly and said with a smile, "Sorry to disappoint you, but I've already graduated. You can sue me if you want. I'll send you the bare minimum required by law for support. With that, I walked over to the dining table and flipped it over violently. Plates and bowls shattered across the floor, and food splattered everywhere. I've wanted to do this for years. My parents kept scolding me endlessly on the side, while Barrett didn't even dare to make a sound. My whole body was almost trembling as I pulled Jack out the door. Once outside, I walked ahead with my head down. Feeling all the blood in my body rushing to my head, I walked for who knows how long before my mind finally calmed down. Looking back, I saw Jack following behind me like a timid little wife, not daring to say a word, carefully watching me. The anger in my heart instantly dissipated, and I couldn't help but laugh and cry. What's with that expression? Nothing. Jack reached out to pull me, smiling. You were just too fierce earlier. You totally stunned me. I let out a long sigh and leaned against him, saying, what should I do? I don't have a dowry anymore. Will you look down on me? Jack rested his chin on top of my head, his voice laced with laughter. Hey, how about we go get our marriage license this afternoon? I have no idea how Jack explained it to his family, but somehow his parents actually agreed to let us get married. I didn't even inform my own parents when we got married. Later, they borrowed a relative's phone to yell at me. But I just blocked them all. I never inquired about family matters again, though I've heard bits and pieces from my cousin. Barrett didn't even get a college diploma. With just a high school certificate, he couldn't find any job. My parents went through great pains to find him a partner, but with no house, no car, no education, and no job, no girl was willing to be with him. Now the three of them are crammed into that shabby 50-square-meter apartment, blaming each other every day. My parents think Barrett is dragging them down, while Barrett thinks my parents are incompetent. When I heard this, I already felt nothing. I've completely let it go. 3 months later, my cousin called me again, saying that during an argument between my mom and Barrett, he pushed her down the stairs and broke her leg. Neither my uncle nor Barrett would help, and my aunt couldn't even afford the medical bills. My cousin sighed. Nancy, I know you've suffered all these years, but she is still your mother after all. You should go back and see her. I thought for a moment and didn't refuse. It wasn't that I wanted to go back to see her. Mainly, there was something I wanted to say. I bought a plane ticket and flew back to my hometown that same day. The hospital where my mother was staying was very familiar to me. I had also stayed here before. Standing at the door of the ward, I gripped the handle, turned it, and pushed the door open. In the hospital bed, my mother looked unwell, having lost a noticeable amount of weight. With one leg in a cast, she strained to reach the water cup on the table, her body leaning precariously, trembling slightly from the effort and pain. I walked over and handed her the cup. Why aren't you up making dinner? Are you deliberately trying to make your brother late for school? My lips trembled slightly as I was about to say something, but my mother suddenly flung the cup at me violently, splashing icy water all over my body. The cold made me shiver, and before I could react, my mother started hitting me with all her strength, crying and screaming, "You heartless brat, if you had the guts to block us all, why did you even come back? It's all your fault. You've ruined this family. It doesn't even feel like a home anymore. Just stab me to death with a knife." I expressionlessly pried her hand away. Why do you always make such a fuss? All you do is cause trouble for me. Let me tell you, I don't have time to deal with you. If you have problems, go find your son. Everyone in the hospital room turned their heads, looking at me with disdain in their eyes. My mother widened her eyes and exclaimed loudly with grievance, "How can you speak to me like that? I'm your mother." I looked at her expressionlessly and said softly, 20 years ago, right here. You said the exact same thing to me, don't you remember? She froze for a moment, all her aggression dissipating instantly, and muttered hesitantly, "You really hold a grudge." I didn't say a word, just placed $5,000 on the bedside table. "Please hire a caregiver for yourself." With that, I turned to leave. My mother's tearful voice called after me, "Nancy, I was wrong. Can't you forgive me?" I didn't turn around, standing still for a long moment with my back to her as I said, "No." The hospital corridor was neither long nor short. Walking alone down the dimly lit passage, I only felt my steps growing lighter and quicker. Stepping out of the hospital, the weather outside was terrible, a hazy, foggy blanket with damp, sticky air clinging to everything, yet I felt as though I was sinking into a quagmire behind me, while the distance ahead was clear and open. My eyes stung as the shackles that had bound me for over 20 years suddenly vanished. I was finally free. After hearing the story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.